Welcome back to the channel as we continue this series exploring the 4 dominant personality types. Last episode we deep dived the introverted blue builder. Today we will dissect the extroverted red director. Once complete, this series of videos will map out each of the 4 dominant behavioural styles and outline the hormones in the brain driving the traits that make up each personality profile. With this knowledge, you can not only increase tolerance and understanding of others, but also learn more about who you are, which is all fundamental in forming more compatible, long-lasting relationships in your life. Before we get started, remember we are profiling each type as if we are describing an individual on the extreme end of the scale, so a pure red, yellow, blue or green type. However, it's important to know that nobody is 100% one type, and we can all express traits from multiple behavioural styles and at different times. You will, however, be able to identify which is the most dominant in your makeup. For reference, the colour framework I'm using to categorise the 4 dominant behavioural types comes from Thomas Erickson's work that can be explored in his book, Surrounded by Idiots. Further to this, the character profiling and psychological studies surrounding the brain hormones associated with each type comes from Helen Fisher's work in her book, Why Him, Why Her. Both are highly recommended and provide an excellent foundation if you're interested in behavioural or personality type psychology and the impact this all has on our relationships. So with that said, let's get into the pure extroverted red director. As a pure-blooded red, you will find yourself on the extroverted side of the spectrum, detailed here in my infographic. I've included a collection of red traits that provides a great overview of the type of person we're discussing here. Dominant, driven, results-oriented, aggressive, ambitious, problem solver, convincing, powerful, opinionated and straightforward are some of the clearly identifiable red traits. Do you recognise any of them? Reds, also referred to as directors, are individuals who speak their mind, direct, tough-minded and decisive. Before making decisions, they deeply assess their options, but without emotion, therefore can execute quickly. Self-control and discipline are traits both admired and held by red types. Highly independent, they must achieve. Strict, not easily satisfied, analytical, and at times extremely skeptical. Reds are not only competent competitors, but also enjoy the thrill of competition and, importantly, getting to the very top. Their pragmatic focus and daring mindset all contributes to their success in competition. Personality type studies suggest that approximately 16% of people are red directors, with males forming the majority. This is because the traits associated with a red are predominantly a product of the male dominant hormone, testosterone. While women also produce this hormone, in men is found in much higher levels. As a result, reds have a core superpower. They're extremely proficient at systemizing, the ability to construct and analyze complex systems. From building skyscrapers, coding blockchains, fixing engines, to studying the ecology of a rainforest, this trait makes reds highly inventive, mathematically and mechanically skilled, a triple threat. However, although reds have a truly independent and systemizing brain, where they excel in systemizing, the trade-off here is empathizing, the ability to identify with and respond appropriately to the thoughts and feelings of others. Psychologist Simon Baron-Cohen distinguished 2 gender differences in the patterns of thinking when it comes to systemizing and empathizing. Systemizers express more testosterone, so male dominant, empathizers more estrogen, so female dominant. It's important to consider, however, some men and women can be equally proficient at both, and also the opposite can apply. Again, we are generally speaking and describing the pure red here, but there are no absolutes. Systemizing is an ability linked to testosterone and therefore technically a skill acquired before you were even born. In the womb, as testosterone washes over the fetal brain, it builds the very architecture needed for this systemizing ability. Likewise, surges of fetal estrogen begins to construct the brain autonomy for empathizing. So depending on the cards you were dealt, you would be exposed to predominantly testosterone or estrogen, or a lot or little of both. Therefore, depending on the levels, you will be primed to be better at systemizing or empathizing, or extremely good or bad at both. So for a pure red systemizer, it's a case of the perfect levels of testosterone were present. Both hormones can also flood the brain during puberty, therefore impacting systemizing and empathizing abilities a little later on in life. Testosterone, however, is linked to superb spatial skills in both sexes. This is the ability to understand, reason, and remember the visual and spatial relationships between objects and space. Interestingly, when testosterone surges in a male brain during puberty, they begin to outperform females in math, geometry, mechanical drawing, mechanical reasoning, and engineering. Far more directors, or REDs, are found to be physicians, mechanics, or engineers. Red directors understand complex systems, they like to figure out how things work and are intrigued by the rules and patterns that govern those complex systems. The natural ability to understand rule-based systems is a common trait of red directors. For example, understanding electronics, computers, logic, math, or music. Again, are you identifying with this profile? If so, drop a comment below. Advanced or superior spatial abilities are attributed to the right hemisphere in the brain. Testosterone builds the right hemisphere faster while compromising the left. This is not a simple equation, however. Too much or too little testosterone can impact spatial abilities negatively. So it's testosterone that's priming the red directors for their spatial abilities. It does this by compartmentalizing the brain, creating more short brain cables that connect nearer parts and less that connect further parts. This enables the reds to focus narrowly, pay close attention to a system's parts, for example, without being distracted by unnecessary data. Higher testosterone turns mental focus from broad to narrow. Think athletes on the world stage, musicians in front of huge crowds, or engineers focusing on a mission-critical system's parts rather than the system as a whole. Excelling at sports, honing in on the structural arrangement of musical notes, or the ability to engineer large physical structures are all examples of spatial talents found in reds or directors and are linked to testosterone levels. Directors are extremely goal-oriented and are able to concentrate deeply or narrowly in one area. Unlike other personality types that may have a range of interests, reds like to focus in specific areas and excel. From a relationship standpoint, a red's focus can be awesome if it's directed at you, but if you're not the focus of their attention, you will be pretty much invisible to them. Higher testosterone activity means reds are less likely to go out of their way to be polite, considerate, or friendly. They don't beat around the bush or engage in meaningless chit-chat, but instead are intently focused on the goal and, more importantly, getting there or achieving it. They can easily dispose of anyone or thing that in their view is a hindrance or not contributing to achieving this goal. They pride themselves on being logical and focused. At times these traits collectively can be perceived by others as blunt or unnecessarily outspoken, but for a red, they feel it's important to be direct and objective. Reds are extremely pragmatic. Political correctness can irritate them. They are practical people and decisive. Decisiveness, another trait linked to testosterone, heightens decision-making even when faced with several choices. Their tough-mindedness contributes to making difficult decisions quickly, as testosterone removes emotion and enables them to hone in on the process. They are also skeptical and distrusting, another trait linked to a derivative of testosterone, dihydrotestosterone. They live by the motto to only trust oneself, only believing reasoning, logic, and systematic investigation. Suspicious of facts until they themselves have checked them, reds are the fact checkers and deeply analyse the motives of others. Ingenious problem solvers and ruthless executors. Resourcefulness is of high importance and admired by reds, self-confident and bold. As long as they know the facts and plan of action, they feel secure and can act boldly. Confident and daring, smooth and persuasive, a fiercely independent spirit, masters of their own fate. They can tolerate isolation, enduring many hours of uninterrupted work seemingly effortlessly. Reds demand autonomy and independence, again linked to testosterone priming in the womb. Being highly competitive and aggressive means they seek rank. Those exposed to more testosterone in the womb or later on in life tend to compete for rank more aggressively. Reds yearn to succeed and set extremely high standards for themselves, often resulting in them working long and hard despite never feeling they've devoted enough time to their projects, only increasing their standards further. The downside to this is it can spiral them into becoming very tense, with almost an air of impending doom always hanging overhead. This transfers into their personal or leisure activities too, the urge to always lift heavier, run faster, win more often. Any loss, even a small one, can make them extremely self-critical. Yet reds never give up striving. Many constantly are in search of the highest prize of all, knowledge. And directors are attracted to those with a thirst for knowledge. They're attracted to the intelligent and intelligence. Reds don't want, need, or seek a wide circle of friends. This stems from testosterone impacting socialization negatively. Infants exposed to more testosterone in the womb are found to make less eye contact and have a smaller vocabulary by age 4, displaying less social savvy and have fewer yet deeper interests. Directors want intense discussions and the sharing of ideas or information with a smaller, more trusted group of friends. Directors, however, can be charming, if they're interested in the conversation, that is. They don't judge or exaggerate. That's why their forthright, direct, and knowledge-packed conversations can be very appealing to other personality types. They don't seek to manipulate and are usually extremely informative. Reds are more open with how they think rather than how they feel. For them, it's imperative to be detached from their feelings in order to think concisely, objectively, and be super decisive. Calm, cool, and collected, reasoning triumphs the emotional world, competence over compassion, logic greater than sentiment, analytical and convincing. They value being regarded as constantly reasonable rather than a person of real feeling. As a result, Reds regard a loss of self-control as a weakness. Testosterone is directly linked with emotional containment. This has been observed in males through puberty. As testosterone increases, they begin to mask their feelings, loneliness, anxiety, and guilt. This emotional containment is also linked to an outstanding human trait, heroic altruism. Reds are more likely to rush into the burning building, dive into the difficult waters, fight off the random street mugger. And when asked why they put themselves in danger, they usually respond, "I wasn't thinking." They are being honest. Their brains are flooded with testosterone, impacting strength, focus, decisiveness, so they can act fast and bold. Many who follow professions that put themselves in harm's way are more likely to be high testosterone Red directors. A flip side to emotional containment is emotional flooding. This means with Reds, the build-up of emotions can sometimes become too much, surfacing in outbursts of anger, shouting, or rage when hurt or disappointed. They are forthright, but this can become blunt or abrasive, depending on the circumstances or personality type on the receiving end. Because they are exacting, they can become uncompromising and demanding. With their narrow focus, directors can miss the bigger picture, and the implications of their actions in the moment can end up hurting others in the process. The need for rank and recognition can turn them into aggressive, power-hungry bullies. High levels of fetal testosterone can make Reds less skilled at recognizing emotions and far less sensitive to the feelings of others. In turn, they can lack empathy or seem cold. Generally, Reds have many brilliant and highly attractive traits. With the gift of logic and reasoning, they can cut out the noise and focus on concentrating on life's challenges and mysteries. A bold spirit with a penetrating focus, Reds can become intellectual geniuses, super athletes, and exciting friends or lovers. Remember, a Red always shoots for the stars. So that's the pure Red personality profile broken down. Let me know in the comments if you identify with the traits and characteristics discussed today, or maybe you notice them in friends, family, work colleagues, or romantic partners. Either way, it's my belief that above all, understanding personality profiles, and most importantly, identifying your own behavioural type, has transformative benefits in terms of how we can more effectively navigate relationships and create more long-lasting, meaningful ones in our lives. Next up, we explore the pure green negotiator personality type. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're finding value in the content, and if this resonated, share it with someone who might benefit, and I'll see you in the next one.